And the schools just saw that as
So
as a good
it was
thing.
lower in the exceptional schools?
A bit lower, but not loads lower, because the teachers there were getting promoted, but it was lower. But you know, it wasn't easy in either schools. They were in challenging communities, but certainly it was lower.
Leading on from the retention point, that's and bringing together with your point, that's another criticism of some of these successful academies in, especially in London, in London, where they're accused of grinding out young NQTs very quickly, and it might be that the exceptional expectation is too high on the staff, and that's what's driving the high retention rate. And if it's not a sustainable model on the workforce.
Well, I think it is sustainable because, well, they feel it's sustainable because...
But if they've got high retention rates.
But I'd just say in response that I think the key is that if there is that values foundation that's right, then everybody welcomes challenge if it's done in an environment that is clearly transparent and fair, and you know. So my question came from just wanting a bit of clarification on that. I've not got any problem with the rigour and the challenge and all the rest of it, as long as those values are there. And I would expect that those heads, you know, you made the comment which will have resonated with some people that, you know, they were much quicker to get rid of failing teachers, was the kind of, you know, summary. And my guess is if they are really genuinely schools that have an incredibly high expectation and care for everybody, then those departures will be traumatic and will be felt. And that's kind of the bit that I needed to hear the reassurance of. So I don't think, you know, I would say that in all the challenge and push and drive, if people really understand that they're in it together to transform the lives of the children in the school, and that has authenticity about it, then people will be bought in.
Absolutely, and the other point about this is I haven't painted a very detailed portrait here, but in these schools and in the best, we do this SCANE research. SCANE is the collective noun for geese flying in a V formation, so a metaphor, not an acronym, where we help schools, we research how effectively they're connecting staff learning and student learning. And so the degree of sophistication and planning around supporting work-based professional learning for teachers and designing their job so that you know, they don't just do stuff, it gets debriefed, but also designing CPD that supports that is extremely sophisticated. It's as sophisticated as the practice for students. There aren't really that many schools that have got that much metacognitive control over how they design the professional learning for staff, and how the senior leadership team treat the staff genuinely as though they're their class, and have the highest expectations about the CPD. And so, you know, the leadership team feel utterly broken and failures if these teachers leave, but leave they nonetheless do. And I think, to be fair to them, they often feel it's the kindest thing to do to those teachers. They've given them loads of support. If it hasn't worked, it probably is better that they go for them, would be what they would say, I think. So I think it is sustainable because people then, you know, people go, but then more people want to come and work in these environments.
Yeah, but you get a revolving door, don't you, where you're I'm not articulating it particularly well, but I guess the assertion would be that you're taking advantage of people who are willing to work harder than they should, because it's an unsustainable work-life balance, and it doesn't matter because you've got a constant influx where you can replace them.
Didn't find most of the teachers feeling
But if the retention
that it was...
rate is very high, then if the retention rate is very low...
I didn't say it's very low. I said it was, you know, it was mixed, you know, but I didn't say it's very low, and it's certainly higher in the exceptional schools than in the strong schools.
The retention is higher in exceptional
Yes.
schools? Oh, sorry, I thought you said that it was low.
No, it's higher in the exceptional schools than in the strong schools.
Oh, okay.
But you know, it's quite. These are schools in challenging areas, so there is turnover. But the exceptional schools feel that, by and large, that's mostly a good thing because their staff are being promoted early on, and then they might come back again.
I was just going to say this sometimes strikes me within the school sector as such a defensive conversation. I mean, if you look at other sectors, I've worked for most of my working life in the third sector, so it's a very, very values-driven sector. And yet we've got it way before schools, that actually performance management, we don't tend to call it that, we tend to call it appraisal and development, but actually performance management is absolutely key to running a successful organisation, and we tend to go bust if we can't, you know, make easier place in terms of, you know, funding and sustainability than a lot of third sector organisations, and we had to really take performance management seriously in order to survive. And you need to see it as a really positive thing, that actually it's not about a punitive, it's about actually helping people develop the sort of things that David was talking about, bringing CPD absolutely into the heart of what you do. If you know how to appraise people, that's what you're doing as part of those discussions. And I think the suspicion in schools is holding us back from moving forward on CPD because we don't use performance management.
Okay, but hang on, we've got, sorry,
The suspicion is
Because
there
schools
because
have done it
what's
so
happened.
badly in the
okay,
past.
but it's also there because if they lack the sophistication about.
How to do it.
We've done much too much focusing on CPD, what we do to teachers, and not enough about forensic learning, how we set up work-based learning for teachers and provide good support around it. And, why am I having such
Can I just ask, sorry, I said that in response to the debate as well. That was a a completely different question. Your research was obviously focused on vulnerable students. That's what you were asked to do. I was talking to a chair of governors recently who her school sounds like the sort of school we've got here, strong stroke exceptional, with a high proportion of preschool meal children. But they've been listening to pupils, and what a lot of their pupils were now saying who weren't preschool meal pupils was that lessons have got much more boring because of consistency. So whether they walked into history or science, they got the same sort of approach. And she was quite taken aback because she was really used to everything being reported as always being very positive. Their attainment is positive. Their progress gap has narrowed. So to hear for the first time it coming from the young people saying, actually this is getting a bit dull.
But that's the point about these schools working with their local communities to make the curriculum rich.
But my question is, focusing on vulnerable pupils, is it different when you start looking at the pupil population as a whole? Do other pupils, have you talked about the real importance of consistency in their lives because they weren't getting it?
Okay, well we don't know, we just don't know. Just
Right.
don't know for that. We ought to finish on time because there's another session, and I just wanted to finish this. The strong schools were teaching teachers. They were running lessons for teachers, and some of them were a bit boring. There weren't many, 30-hour PowerPoint sessions, but there was a bit of teaching teachers. And exceptional schools were focused on curriculum learning. And David, if you were in the previous session, was talking about this source of the Goose point. There is a leaflet on our website, you can follow the web link, and it has got a brilliant recipe for sauce, which works really well with goose, but it works brilliantly with dark nut roast too, apple, chili, ginger, coriander, and it works through some of the evidence about this and the web links here. We'll put the PowerPoint on our website. The thing that I'd say about consistency and systematisation is not that the outcome of that is dull and boring. It's about a scaffolding and an infrastructure. One of the most creative schools I know is Roxham, Alison Peacock's school. She dragged double-decker buses and World War I motorcycles into the school to pack things up, and has everyone design a robot made out of rubbish to drive the bus. And couldn't be more creative. But she absolutely expects to review every single lesson plan from 5 o'clock in the morning onwards every Sunday. We tend to think of systematisation and creativity as in opposition to each other. I think the thing in these schools was the systematisation was there to create an environment for creativity, but the creativity was about the relationship and the learning process. There's a great guy called Rio Engstrom, Yriomgestrom, and he says that without tension there's no learning. It doesn't mean we all have to be like this, it means you have to have something to push against. And it felt to me, I don't know, that you might get really some surprising things if you tried building these approaches in some other schools. And the model of pedagogy may well be different, the curriculum may well be different, but that holding some of all these variables constant so that you can create the space of creativity is actually a really interesting experiment. And the other thing about these schools is it makes the learning visible to the school as a whole. Because there are these systems, it starts to be possible to see what's going on instead of lots of confusing noise and signals for those who are in Daisy's session at the beginning of the day. So there's lots more on our website about this. There's lots more about the Skane research. The Skane research has certainly shown similar things happening. So St Thomas More have been outstanding for 17 years, thought they wouldn't be under the new regime, used the Skane to do some of this stuff, very recognisable in these terms, and has come out funding again. And Ofsted is saying it's because they've been researching and investing systematically in professional learning and took the evidence away with them, and because they'd exposed themselves to evidence of a systematic nature. So I think we can get all these things to work together, and it was a real privilege running these schools. They were awesome, and it's been great working with you, and I hope that's been an interesting session and follow it up. Thank you very much.